They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo the Diesel.
Welcome. This is Riggo the Diesel. Yes, I am John Riggins. Larry Michael joins me as he always does, and this is episode 79 overall, season 2, episode 39, if you're scoring it that way. Larry, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, John. And this is, there have been a couple other weeks where you had problems with your headphones, but you were in the starting gates today, ready to go at the jump.
Yeah, minor amount of glitches, but of course, I was just teasing everybody. I've got a producer on one end, that'd be Stevie Katz, and then my producer here at home is my 15-year-old daughter, Coco. These are her earbuds, by the way, or what do they call AirPods or whatever. So
yeah,
she had to fix me up. She said, actually, she takes it upon herself because I said, no, I can do it. Says, no, I better do it, Dad. So I said, yes, please do. So yeah, we're good to go today. And along those lines, there's been a lot of things happening in the NFL and team to team. So we got a few things here to discuss. One of the things is last week, the new schedule has come out. And I was just wondering, we knew who the opponents would be. We just didn't know when the games would be played. And there's some people I think that are a little bit kind of like, well, I think considering the schedule or the record from last year, the schedule this year is a little more difficult than what people would have anticipated. But I got to tell you, Larry, my personal opinion is there's some what I want to say, we have some ability to be able to look into the future or the crystal ball and say, well, that team should be pretty good. But for the most part, you never know. There's always those teams that were playing at a high level and they hit. Atlanta's a classic team that was in the Super Bowl one year. I don't think they made the playoffs the next year. To give you an example, so when you look at this and you think, oh, we got to play them there, I'm going, I don't know. I think it's a clean slate, and I think that's probably the way Coach Rivera looks at it. Like, you got to take them one at a time, as hackneyed as that is, and you just never know from one season to the next who if you could pencil in, I guess Kansas City, you'd have to say Kansas City's got to be a pretty tough game if you play the Kansas City Chiefs. I guess San Francisco, some of the teams that finish in the playoffs, but believe me, there's plenty of sleeper teams out there that are going to come to the fore that nobody would have anticipated this year.
Well, it took me a long time to realize what you're saying is 200% right. Every year people come out and say strength of schedule, this and all that. It took me a long time to figure it out. You really don't know what's going to happen. As a player, as a Hall of Famer, how long did it take you to figure out when you see the schedule? You really don't know what these teams are like until you're actually on the field with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're kind of like everybody else. You go, oh, we got to play them. I mean, I remember back in my day, and it was true, and this was true, though. When you saw Pittsburgh Steelers on your schedule and you were a running back, you kind of went, probably not going to be a great day. And it bore out to be true. But at the same time, you have to play those games because for whatever reason, and we talked about this last week, I mean, I honestly think we were talking about it when when the Jets when the Jets upset the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. If those teams would have played, 10 times, I'm guessing the Colts probably would have won the next 9. Point being is you have to play these games even though you may be outmatched for whatever that particular day things fall your way. It's always about your mindset more than anything else. And I think that's when you play the game long enough, you understand, I don't need to worry about this. And I guarantee you, actually, we all have that same tendency to do it. But when you look at these games, that really shouldn't be your focus, as a player anyway. First of all, it starts with just do what you're asked to do. Do what the team asks you to do. I always say this, that isn't your job. That's for Ron Rivera to look at the schedule and go, oh, we got this, because he's responsible for the wins and the losses. The players really aren't. At least that's the way I see it.
100% right, man. I couldn't say it better myself. And I look at that schedule, and you see there's a tough stretch. There's 3 on the road late in the year, and by December you better know how good your football team is. And it's always, I don't know how many years in a row, or it hasn't been years in a row, but it seems like over the last 5 years, 4 of the last 5, I've been in Dallas for Thanksgiving, and we're going to be there again. We're going to be there again, which is, I think, an unfair advantage to the Cowboys. I never felt this, but having gone through this over and over to host the game. Now, what you got afterwards, you get a long weekend. It's almost like getting another bye week. The Redskins bye comes right in the middle of the season. It comes at a real good time. So I'm not looking forward to that. But the rest, everybody can put their W's and L's next to the teams, and it never works out that way, does it? It just
very seldom. Very seldom I would say that. Let's change the subject just for a second here. I'm kind of curious at this point what you actually know, if there's been any more news about training camp and when these teams are going to finally be able to start practicing, because one would think that particularly, Washington having a new coach, and they're not the only team in the league, but, the players, and it's not just the rookies, because the veteran players have got new systems that they're going to have to start,
right,
learning, and how they go about, particularly for the quarterbacks and the passing game, the most sophisticated part, I think it's more sophisticated than defensive, playbooks and all that stuff. So do you have any idea how and when that they're going to be able to start getting, I don't know if the word get together is correct, or I guess maybe it's just like what we're doing. And I'm wondering, is it possible, let's just say that Coach Turner and, the quarterbacks can meet virtually and they can run game film while everybody's watching the same film? I mean, do you have any idea about these things?
Really not sure exactly when everybody's going to be returning. But I do know that by May the 15th, I think we heard that the NFL was going to make a determination on when teams might be able to return. And John, they want to have a level playing field. Some areas are worse off than others, as we know. And when do the players return? I have no knowledge of camp, no knowledge about mini camp, OTAs. But, again, what are coaches evaluating? And I think this could come into play if you're a rookie or if you're a returning veteran and you've got a new head football coach. One of the nuances, obviously, of the offseason program is getting to know your coach and him getting to know you. That process isn't going to take place normally, so players are going to have to really shine, I think, if you're trying to make a team. These decisions are going to be harder when we get down to the end of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said, right now, everything's up in the air, and it's very fortunate for the NFL that the virus hit when it did, because clearly it was in the off season. And they've got a lot of they've had the ability to look at the other sports leagues, see what they're doing, and their season really technically doesn't start for several months. So there's a possibility. Plus now the country's starting to open up, but clearly, the old hackneyed expression, uncharted waters. We really don't know. I mean, there's still talk that it could be a truncated season. There's talk that they could push the season, and that's what I was asking way back when. I'm wondering, well, if that was the case, because the Super Bowl being such an world event, that would they move it, say, to March or something like that, to try to get, to get in all the games, and plus, are there going to be fans in the stands? Which at this point we have no idea. My guess is probably not, that they'll be playing games at stadiums where there won't be any spectators. So there's a whole lot to learn, and we just, unfortunately, the information comes in dribs and drabs.
Right. Well, one thing, again, you said it, the time is on the side of the NFL, and you got MLS coming back. They said they're going to start without fans. They're going to be in Florida. You see NASCAR is going to have a race. And again, some of these things are going to happen. So, and there's at least a couple months before training camp, more than 2 months before when training camp would start. You're looking at 2.5 months from when training camp would normally start. Then you have preseason, 15, 18 days after that. So there is some time. But and maybe we'll talk about the anxiety in the final segment of the show a little bit, huh?
Okay, that works for me. Anyway, we've got a guest coming up. Pat Hurley's going to join us and tell us all about cybersecurity.
Exactly right. And hopefully your cyber is secure. But while you think that over, John, I got something to tell you here. How well do you know the Redskins' new head coach, Ron Rivera? Test your knowledge for a chance to win a football autograph by the coach. Visit redskins.com/get-to-know to take the quiz. Also, did you know your Redskins are sponsored by Koch Industries? That's K-O-C-H, Koch. Their 67,000 U.S. employees make a lot of things that make game day better. Greener turf, they make that. Stronger paper products for tailgating, they make that too. Oh, and electronic components, and TVs and smart devices, so you can watch the Redskins anytime, anywhere. Yeah, Koch makes that too. See, all the things on and off the field that they make, at kochmakesthat.com.
Well, we all know money's going to be tight in the near future. At least I think it is. And, you really can't wait when you have a plumbing problem. So what's O'Connor Plumbing going to do for you? Well, I'll tell you what. I think they got a pretty good deal here. No payments for 6 months on all services. And you can get a quick spot credit approval. You can convert that to a long-term 120-month fixed low APR loan afterward. Plus, they're going to waive their diagnostics fees and 10% off on all services. Don't neglect your plumbing. It's the heart of your house. Call O'Connor Plumbing at 1-833-RIGGO-44.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
All right. Well, we're very fortunate today to have a guest on our show. And finally, as we used to say when we would get a rookie or somebody out there on a practice field, live meet. So, Larry, I'm going to let you introduce our guest because they have their company has a relationship with the team. And I'll throw it to you for now.
Okay, Pat Hurley, who's the Vice President General Manager from Acronis, which is a great Redskins partner. And first of all, thanks for joining us on this Riggo the Diesel podcast. Do you do many podcasts?
Don't do a lot of podcasts. We certainly do a lot of press interviews. We work a lot of different sports teams in different capacities, but this is, I think, my first official podcast. So glad that I'm being thrown into the wolf den here.
Pat, right now during this time, you hear some stories, obviously, about scammers being out there. And because of the pandemic going on, we're all in our own homes. Your company protects data. Your company protects individuals and companies. How important is that in this day and age, in this virtual age that we're living in?
It's critical. If you think about the amount of data that companies and sports organizations are generating, it becomes a critical part of operating at an effective level. You think about things that you're protecting, your devices, your playbooks, personal information you might have. Think of the amount of devices you have in your house right now. You probably have some sort of mobile device, maybe an iPad, a laptop. Some of our more sophisticated home users actually have server racks. Those are all potential infiltration points for bad people that want to go out there and do harm and potentially hold your data ransom to try to make a quick buck off.
And when you go ahead, Riggo. John Riggins,
I was just going to say, can you give me an example, Pat, of something? I think I got an idea, but of something a professional sports team could potentially run into where the bad guys would, get into their data and, what you mentioned something before, which I guess is real popular, is somehow they would get in and try to get a position where they could get ransom from the team. Can you set up a scenario or two for me?
Absolutely. So what these hackers do is they essentially infiltrate through vulnerability points that are essentially protected by Acronis. So we protect those holes on the Redskins side of things. But when these guys get in there, they start to encrypt your data. Usually one of the first places they'll start is your backup. So your infrastructure team, your IT team is rigorously working to make sure that your data is protected and backed up and stored probably in multiple locations. What the hackers do is they'll get there and actually start encrypting your backup so that when you try to recover from the attack, you can't go to that backup and recover that and get your infrastructure back up and running. So what Acronis does is we help prevent those attacks from happening in a proactive manner, actually actively preventing the attacks from happening so that your infrastructure is always going to be protected. I would say another example you might see is some of the security capabilities we have. You might have heard recently there were some rumors that Rob Gronkowski might have had access to a playbook, right?
Yeah, the Tampa Bay playbook. That's right. Yeah.
Our software would allow you as an organization to say you cut a player, you're able to go there immediately, grab that data, wipe it completely off the device, and the playbook is not out there for public consumption or use by other organizations.
I'm wondering your opinion on how the NFL did that virtual draft, because a lot of people questioned, somebody could get in there and something, the whole thing could get derailed. It actually happened. For someone like you who lives in this world, was that surprising in any way?
We weren't surprised when we started talking to teams about the importance of making sure you're protected, during those types of virtual events. And it doesn't have to be something as big as the draft. It could just be a meeting where you guys are talking about player personnel or potential cuts, potential roster moves, or potential signings or big trades you're looking to make. That stuff is information that could be hacked. I'm not saying that there are teams out there actively trying to do that, but there are bad people out there trying to infiltrate. The tool that we're on right now allows for that type of interaction with people. It's a natural gateway to connect me in my home in Boston to you guys in your home, so we can have this conversation. They're productivity tools, collaboration tools, and those create a natural area for these bad guys to go and potentially get access. And you need to have tools like Acronis there to make sure that these points are protected. So we protect against attacks against Zoom, against WebEx, against Team. It doesn't matter what type of productivity tool, really. We partner with all the large ones to make sure that they're protected, they're safe. You don't want someone coming into the middle of a meeting and Zoom bombing you, maybe showing some unflattering things that your friends and family would want to see.
Yeah. Riggo doesn't have anything like that out there.
I got so much of it. What am I going to be scared of?
I've
learned to live with it, as they say. Pat, I'm curious though, because this is so technologically so far over my head. I'm trying to get a grasp of. Can you give me a layman's view of how does Acronis actually do these things? Is it a matter of you guys develop? I'm going to throw out the word software, or how do you cut this stuff off?
Yeah, it's a software-based solution. Majority of our offerings today are SaaS-based, software as a service. The way we generally operate today is that we have our management infrastructure hosted in the cloud. We have 18 different data centers across the globe where the management components are hosted. We then are able to send down an agent, basically an installer to your computer that installs all the different software components that make sure you're protected. It provides you with backup. It provides you with the ability to do file sync and share if you're familiar with solutions like Dropbox, or OneDrive, Google Drive, stuff like that. Another collaboration tool, you're able to share and collaborate on information. Prevents ransomware attacks. It actively prevents malware from getting into your computer, prevents viruses from happening, all sorts of capabilities that are included in the product suite. The interesting way that we differentiate ourselves, and you see these terms thrown around a lot as buzzwords, as marketing material, but these are things that we're actually doing. This is how we differentiate against the other security providers out there. We actually build our technology on artificial intelligence. So it's actively learning what's going on, what type of maneuvers are happening, what you're doing with your computer, so that when you're actually in our console, you're able to it's actually learning from you and how you use it to make it more user-friendly, make you more capable of protecting your data in a much easier way. Hopefully that boils it down for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this similar to what you do on electronic or technological level, similar to a home protection security system in a home, where if somebody starts messing, we'll say, with the team's website or whatever it may be, does it send with your equipment or software? Does an alarm show up and it brings you guys right in immediately that you would know that something's going on? Or does it basically there's a wall around it that you can't penetrate?
Great question. It's more of the wall around it that you can't penetrate. So when I logged into the tool today, I'm running Acronis Active Protection, making sure that I'm personally, we call it cyber fit, making sure that I'm prepared to go into this meeting and saying, all right, you get a pop-up that actually says you're protected. You can feel comfortable in this space, and it's preventing any of those attacks from making a penetration there.
Great job, Pat. Really proud to have you guys as part of the Redskins family. Acronis, real important that everybody listens to what you're saying. Last question. When you speak of bad guys, where are they? Where are these bad guys located?
Probably in their mother's or grandmother's basements, I'm guessing, somewhere. I don't really know. I mean, it's a lot of different perspectives on it. You could think that some of it is certainly government-run, state-run type organizations. You think about some of the rogue countries that are out there that the United States doesn't necessarily have great relationships with. It's kind of unique to us. We have a dual headquarters in two very neutral countries, Switzerland and Singapore, which is a big part of how we spread our message out there, that we're neutral, that all data needs to be protected regardless of whose data it is. But you see it both from a state side and you also see it from an individual side. It's now been commercialized. This ransomware as a service, you see these threads getting out there, these strains, I guess you could say, getting out there and modified to a point where there actually are people that are selling ransomware as a service. You can go in and encrypt people's computers and charge them money to get their data back. The problem is whenever you pay that ransom, now they know that they've got a sucker on the other end of the line, right? They can go back and keep fishing in that same pond. You need controls in place to make sure you're actually protected.
Pat,
Thank you so much for joining us. Pat, Riggo, do you have anything for Pat?
Yeah, well, just last thing. Do you just really serve the corporate world, or is it a service that individuals could employ as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. We work from what we call consumer or prosumer customers, which would be like you walk into a Best Buy, a Staples, any sort of computer shop, you can buy a license of our product there. All the way up to very large enterprises. We work with a bunch of sports brands from, now the Redskins, the Boston Red Sox, the San Diego Padres, a bunch of Premier League teams, Roush Racing. We work with some Formula One teams as well. But everywhere from the individual user who might have a couple devices at home all the way up to, Fortune 100 companies that are using us to back up or do secure file sync and share across tens of thousands of users.
All right,
Thanks again, Pat.
Pat
Hurley from Acronis. Really appreciate you being on the Riggo the Diesel show, my friend. And I guess the Redskins don't play the Patriots this year, I don't think.
Not this year, I don't think, but would love to get down there and catch a game. And make sure you guys download Cyber Protect today. Get your devices protected.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Whether on the sidelines or in the classroom, whether your chalkboard is for X's and O's or vocab words, whether you're a pro football coach or Mrs. Johnson at George Mason High School, the Redskins believe in the power of great teachers. That's why we're partnering with youth entrepreneurs to bring Washington, D.C. teachers the resources they deserve. In response to the coronavirus pandemic, Youth Entrepreneurs has launched Teach Everywhere, a place for teachers to call home while adjusting to teaching at home. The resource contains distant learning activities, resources and tools, and a series of webinars from expert educators. Visit teacheverywhere.org to learn more. And everyone at Honda wants you to be safe. And right now you need a car you can count on and your dealer to go to for the extra mile. So if your Honda needs parts or service, we're right here to help. Working to follow all government guidelines in order to get you what you need and help you stay safe with a reliable car ready to go when you need it. Contact your local Honda dealer for more information.
Riggins. He's going to go all the way unless Blackwood can catch him, and he can't.
They left the scoreboard up. I remember seeing Redskins 27, Dolphins 17. And it was that moment of truth where I went, damn, I'm a world champion.
John, when he walked, he had a little bop to him. And besides that, he had the booty out there. They nicknamed him Chocolate Chip.
Story time with Riggo.
One more segment, John. What you got on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what, Larry, I don't know about how it's going for you, but I think that I'm at that point where I'm about ready to spill my guts. I'm ready to crack. I'm going to tell, yes and no. But it's like, I don't know what, this is day 54, 55, 56. I don't know. I guess it's getting close to what we've been at this 8 weeks now. It's somewhere in there.
2 months plus.
What's that? Yeah.
2 months plus.
Well, and I find it kind of comical in a weird sort of way. I was telling my wife last night, because it seems that the information that we've received in the last 2 months, it's where I don't know what to believe. You kind of want to lean this way. You'll have people tell you the coronavirus really, it for the most part, people that get it, some of them don't even have symptoms. Some people don't know they have it. And yet, we've got, I don't know how many deaths we have in this country and around the world, 250,000 people, I think. So it really depends where you don't know exactly what your take on it is. We have a couple of friends, at least Maria and I do, that both of them, and they're my age and older, both of them, a couple, had the coronavirus, both survived it, which typically, based on the information you get, that ain't supposed to happen.
Right.
And yet then you have younger children now that think, when I say younger, I guess younger adults, some younger adults are actually, they become fatalities. Because once upon a time it was, well, this is kind of a disease for the aged, 70 and up.
Right.
So, we've got to where, like I say, it would seem like it's just constant misinformation. I don't know. There's part of me at times, and I guess this is what really has triggered it, is that we really are living a horror movie, and not technically, because we stay home, so there's really no imminent danger to anybody. We can't detect it. But when you go out to get groceries or go get something that you need for the house, well, it may be something at the hardware store, You see everybody wearing a mask and gloves. It's so reminiscent of 9/11 up in New York City when I saw throngs of people coming up 9th Avenue that day. But that was one day for about, 3 or 4 or 5 hours. This is day after day after day. It's to the point. And then in the beginning, it would seem like that, everybody, there's two groups of people there. Obviously, you've got the progressives and you got the conservatives. We didn't get on it in time. We should have been on it faster, i.e. the shutdown. And now we're and so there was, that complaint. And now that things are opening up, or people wanting to open things up, some of the conservatives are saying, well, then now the progressives saying, no, it's too soon. It's kind of going back and forth. It's a state of confusion, and with no real idea of when this stuff is going to ease and how much. Last week, I think that some of the stuff here in Maryland has opened up a little bit, I guess. I'm not 100% sure. But the irony of this whole thing is, for me personally, it hasn't changed me that much. I don't get to come out and visit you once a week.
Right.
That's been taken off my schedule. But other than that, I'm a homebody, so I do I'm a gardener and whatever, landscaper and all that. So I do all that stuff, and I'm the cook. So, and then I've got my wife. Did I say wives? I've got my wife and my 2 daughters here. And so, it really is turned into Groundhog Day every day after day. And I'm thinking this must be true in every household. One of the first things you do when you get up in the morning and you make contact with everybody else you're sharing the house with is, what are we having for dinner? It seems like dinner has never been more of a focal point than it has for the past 2 months. First thing everybody asks, well, what are we having for dinner tonight?
Are you cooking a lot? Right now these days?
But fortunately, this is one of the things that I have a daughter that's a freshman. She's 15 in high school. And then I have another daughter who just graduated from college. And then, of course, my wife. So I have 3 potential cooks, and they've all pitched in to the point where I'm threatening to retire from the kitchen and just come in as the executive chef and just kind of say, I think that needs a little more salt, or, we need to put a little bit more, some kind of, thyme in this recipe. But actually, we had a burst there. I think last week I only had to make about 2 or 3 meals, and I think everybody else was good for the rest of them. But it seems like now the more it changes, the more it stays the same. I'm back to cooking more, so I just kind of assume that I'm making dinner unless somebody surprises me.
Well, hey, I'm the same. I think I think you can see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, though. And the schedule came out. We talked about that in the first segment of the show, and it kind of, for me, I got a little bit of structure, if you will, and hoping to go back to work here before too long. Who knows when? I see today the governor of the state of Virginia kind of changed some of the dates for Northern Virginia, while the rest of the state is going to open up at the end of this week. 2 more weeks for those of us in Northern Virginia, because of what apparently might be medical concerns or flattening and all the other things we've been hearing about. Which takes me to something you said at the beginning. I think one of the reasons we feel this anxiety, and I just keep watching the commercials on TV are so redundant now because everyone's using the same style commercial. It's very, very slow, and it's almost sad. It's almost sad. I can't watch the news either. Really cannot watch the news because it's the same thing over and over and over. And even if it's good news, bad news, it's you're inundated with the same message over and over and over. And we've been inside for more than 2 months. So just imagine that, it's kind of like a water torture type of thing going on in your head, that you keep on hearing the same thing over and over. And when they say uncertain times, to me, that is the cause of a lot of the anxiety. People don't know, when is this going to happen? When's that going to happen? Like you said, your comparison to 9/11 obviously was different because it happened and that was it. Like you say, it's a horror show in a lot of ways. So hopefully here, you see some places are opening up, and that we get into the summer and they get more control over it, because everybody wants sports. I think people are going to flock to see sports. I saw where the soccer league is going to play in front of an empty house. Well, it's going to be on TV. A lot of people are going to watch that. NASCAR starts this weekend, I think. They're going to have a race. Empty arena, empty track. People are going to watch that because we're kind of starved for that,
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting too, though, and this may be the best news that we can give everybody, at least around here, is I keep checking the weather, and for whatever reason, and maybe it's my imagination, but this spring/winter seems to have been unusually cool, almost you could say cold. Excuse me, please. And I think by Friday we're supposed to be hitting temperatures in the mid 80s.
Right.
And I got a feeling that's going to change a lot of stuff for a lot of people. That you'll feel more not that you wouldn't before, but we've had so much weather in the 50s, kind of rainy and misty and all that stuff. It just, where you kind of are pent up inside. But, when you get weather up in the 80s, I think it's going to relax everything. But still, it's just, you got to keep trudging on. And it's like, I tell my wife, probably every other day about it. It's like, you know what? We've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime. And it's so weird that you're just, that you do this and you're being told to do it, but it's something where you can't really see it. And, there's that part, like I said, there's that part of you that figures, well, what the hell, how bad can COVID-19 be? They say it's the mortality rate. But the other thing about that, which I don't know everybody, but I think it has the potential to damage organs if you don't get it in time. So even though you may survive it, you may not be the same person you were when you come out the other side. So I guess it's business as usual, Larry. And we will we'll be doing this next week.
We will. One last thing to leave folks on a really uplifting note. These cool temperatures sliding into these hot ones. How does that work for John Riggins, the gardener? Is this good for John Riggins, the gardener, or is this not good for John Riggins, the gardener?
Actually, it's excellent. And I'm glad you brought that up because this weekend, because it's going to get warm, I've had some tomato plants, and I've grown tomato plants from seeds several times in the past. These things don't seem to want to grow very much, but I'm going to put in my tomato plants over the weekend. That's what I'm hoping for. So good things.
Nothing like homegrown tomatoes. Appreciate it, Riggo.
Yes.
Even though COVID-19 poses an unprecedented challenge, you can count on Novec to deliver reliable power and to help in other ways. Novec.com offers tips to save energy while spending more time at home. Novec customers can monitor their energy use online, as well as pay bills through the website or by phone. And anyone can donate to help neighbors in need through Operation Roundup. Novec, power you can count on.
I'm Robert Wilkie, Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. 155 years ago, President Lincoln called upon us to care for America's veterans. Today, you can help answer that call. We are looking for physicians, nurses, and other medical professionals to help protect veterans from the coronavirus. Go to va.gov/join us or text VA physician or VA nurse to 97211.